What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the first episode of the Servo Drafts. This is something that me and my cousin Nick will be doing while we're all quarantined at home and sitting around without live sports to talk about. So why not talk about some fake teams that we put together, some fun, different stuff that's not even sports related, because why not? And today, the first draft – we will be doing our all-decade MLB teams from 2010 to 2020, so the 2010s draft, last 10 years. And, Nick, I'm pumped. How are you doing? You ready for these drafts?
I'm so ready. I miss baseball.
Right?
I think we'd be in like week number one right now. So week number one or two. So
Yeah.
anything to get my sports fix. My life is hollow without sports.
I know. And so, first off, we just want to talk about sports not being here right now for us to watch. Obviously, everyone around the world is just dealing with this coronavirus that I think, thankfully, you and me are healthy, and a lot of people we know are mostly healthy. But we're hoping everyone out there stays safe and stays inside. But when do you think sports are coming back? I mean, I'll let you take this any different way. Which sport you think comes back first? I know yesterday there was the whole thing with the UFC being canceled. ESPN kind of nixed that. But we've heard rumors and reports about what the NBA or MLB might do to start their seasons up again. NFL draft is going to still happen, but we'll see if that season's affected at all. But I don't know. What do you think about all of this?
Yeah, I think unfortunately we're not going to see sports the way they were in 2020, and I think that's the take that is the saddest, but I think is most realistic depending on how the situation develops. Though I think you're going to see empty stadiums in the MLB. Maybe start playing mid-June. I think you could see that the NBA and the MLB, the MLS, they start ramping up in 2 months from now, but I do not think there'll be fans there. Um, I think you're just going to get some weird, it's going to be like a practice feel, but like with high stakes. So it's going to be a weird environment. Um, I think those sports will resume in like 2 months with no fans. I think the NFL will also start on time, but also with no fans. I just don't see a world in which there's going to be large crowds of 60,000 people congregating on a daily basis to these events. So I think 2020 is going to be a weird, weird sports year.
That's for sure. And I mean, for you and me, we're both huge college basketball fans. And when the conference tournaments and then the NCAA tournament got canceled, I already knew it was going to be a little weird because, without that being part of your sports calendar, it's already weird. So, I'm with you though. I think it's going to be at least another month or two. I know these leagues, there's been reports about when they think they can come back, and it's all just optimistic because none of us really know, and not even the
Yeah.
medical experts know when it's going to be safe to do anything like this. So I know, seeing the reports that the MLB might do all their games in Florida/Arizona at spring training facilities would be interesting with all the mixed up, divisions and all that would be kind of interesting. Yankees and Phillies would be in the same division, it looks like.
I would love that. That actually would be really fun.
Yeah, that by
Um,
the way, that division would be so easy. I think we had the Pirates, the Blue Jays, and a couple other scrub teams. So
the Yankees are voting for that. Um,
yeah,
they want that to happen because, they need to win a World Series in the next 2 or 3 years, or else people are going to go nuts.
dude, it's been what, over a decade, right?
Yeah, 2009. But fun fact, I was doing research for this draft, obviously, and the Yankees have won the most games in the past 20 years, more than any other franchise. I think they have over 1,900 wins, or like 1,800 wins, but no world. They obviously won in
Nothing to show for
2009,
it.
but really nothing to show for it. But they were the winningest team in the last decade, but no World Series. So really interesting to
Wow.
see that.
It is crazy to think about how the Yankees haven't won since '09, and they beat my
Yeah,
Phillies in that year. I remember that.
yeah.
Crazy. Well, so let's get right into this draft. We're going to be doing so. We're doing a snake style draft. First pick will just be, first pick obviously, but the next guy that picks will have the next two picks, kind of make it a little more fair. And then from there, we'll go snake.
Yep.
And we are doing a 15-round draft. So every position plus a DH / utility guy for, to make up the batting order at least. And then three starting pitchers and then two relievers for our pitching staff. That's the 15 rounds right there. So we did a little heads or tails before this, and I won that one. You didn't really see the coin, so maybe I just rigged it. But I'm going to be picking first, and you'll have the next two picks. And to start off, I mean, you probably knew this was coming, but I'm going to go Mike Trout. I mean,
Oh my gosh, not surprising at all.
he's already the GOAT. And, I'm just looking at his baseball reference page right now. I mean, rookie of the year in 12. He has got 3 MVPs and probably should have 2 or 3 more. Just the clear-cut best player in baseball for this last decade. Entered the league in 2011. He's going to be my 2 or 3 hitter. I already know that. And going to be holding down center field probably. So I'm starting out with Trout.
That one, I literally could have seen that coming from a mile away. Dan loves Mike Trout more than anything else. South Jersey,
born and
South
bred.
Jersey, born and bred. He's a ride or die Mike Trout fan. I have a question for you, Dan.
What's up?
Do you think how do you think Mike Trout's career compares to someone in like the NBA? Because I was thinking about this. He reminds me a lot of like Kevin Garnett, someone who was on the T-Wolves, was sick for 10 plus years. Clearly was one of the best players, but just had a bad team around him and had nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
I think Mike Trout, he is by all standards the best player. I'm not going to argue that. He's deserving of the number 1 overall pick. I'm just not sure. I think he might get a little overhyped. I know the team is not great around him, but at what point did you have to think and say he chose $400 million to stay with the Angels and may never win a World Series over trying to go, to a winning team? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, when he signed that big extension, I thought maybe if he tested free agency, he got a lot of money, but he might have even gotten more because there would have been a bidding war. But, this year would have been interesting, this Angels team, that, and we'll see when the season happens. But because they brought in Anthony Rendon to kind of give him some insurance there, hitting behind him. I know they're hoping Shohei Ohtani's going to be kind of, one of their better players, hitters for the next couple years with Trout. Who else is done? But what you compare him to Kevin Garnett, and a guy I've thought of previously to compare Trout's kind of career so far would kind of be Allen Iverson with the Sixers. Because Iverson was, one of the top players, was never like, maybe the greatest in the league, but individually he was just one of the best scorers. And the Sixers, they made the finals one year, but the other years they really weren't, a playoff contender. Yeah. But Iverson always got his, and Trout always gets his numbers. But Garnett's a good choice to compare him to. I'm really, I'm a Phillies fan, but I always root for the Angels because of Trout, and they're kind of, different coast, different league. So I will be rooting for the Angels to just do something with Trout's career here.
Yeah.
It's kind of like actually another player in baseball you could compare him to is Ken Griffey, Griffey never, he doesn't have a World Series title. There's a couple of teams, the Mariners, that were really good, but, he's one of the best players ever, and he never has anything to show for it playoff-wise.
Yeah, at least the Mariners had A-Rod and Edgar Martinez, and they had a lot of good talent. There was a couple of years where they were actually in the mix. They ran into the Yankees, unfortunately, during those times with some other, hot AL teams. But it's just interesting that Mike Trout, I don't see the Angels winning the World Series this year. I think they need a couple more years of developing pitching. And I don't know, he's going to be 33 before maybe they have any shot. And by that point, it's going to be a really weird look back on his career. But consensus number 1, no doubt about that. For my So I have the next two picks here. My second pick, I'm going with my favorite pitcher from this decade, and that's Max Scherzer. Um,
Wow, going pitcher
I
early. I like it.
Yeah, he to me is a guy that um, top of the staff, absolute ace. Um, he won three Cy Youngs this decade, seven-time All-Star, 58.4 WAR, World Series. You just know day in and day out that he is going to get on the hill, give you seven strong innings, 10 plus strikeouts, and just dominate. So he's a guy that I want on my team and I want anchoring my squad.
Love it. Yeah. I mean, what definitely was going to be probably the first pitcher I would look at. So I like that pick.
Yeah, I just like that he's also a psycho too. Like he just is so passionate on the mound, very durable, never gets hurt. For me, it
his,
was kind of a no-brainer of like if I'm going to take one guy, he's going to be my guy. Um,
his different color eyes don't help either with
I
the staying away from the psychotic method.
I know. I love. He's just my favorite. Also, shout out to fantasy baseball. He's a beast in there as well. Um, for my second pick, I am going to go. I took a long look at like who were the best players in this era, and sort of you get some really weird ones in terms of people really good the first 5 or 6 years, and they've kind of fallen off. Um, but this is for me. I'm going to go with Miguel Cabrera for my um, third overall pick here. I think yes, he's not the player that he is or was anymore. But the first 6 years of this decade, he was an absolute monster and won the Triple Crown. Um, he still was a seven-time All-Star this decade, two-time MVP, 43.5 WAR. Um, you know, in this time period, he still hit 317. He had 940 RBIs. He's just my anchor for this decade in terms of, yeah, I know the last 2 to 3 years my team might stink, but I'm getting six absolutely amazing years where he's going to bat third and be my superstar.
Yeah. I like that pick a lot. He was just at a time he was just the best hitter in baseball. Just like I mean, and he's kind of fallen off the last few years, which is a little sad to see. Kind of like Pujols, you watch these older guys, and it's just they're out there, they're getting paid a ton, but they're kind of struggling to even stay healthy for a full year. And when they're out there, sometimes they're just
Yeah.
you can tell their body's just worn down. But yeah, Miggy, I mean, dude, I saw him. He was the third baseman of the Florida Marlins, and started to bring this up, Nick. But in '03, I was at the game-clinching Marlins versus Yankees game in the World Series, and saw Miggy in that game.
Yeah.
And he was so young then, but so good. And then when he was on the Tigers, his game just became another level. And that was, I mean, that was '03 to we're talking about this last decade. He's been even better. So.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look at him from like 2006 to 2016, I mean, he's just a perennial like 315 for 30 home runs, 100 plus RBIs. Just he is an absolute hitting monster.
Yeah.
Can't really play defense. That doesn't matter. I'm picking him for his bat. And Dan, I was at that World Series game with you in
You
2003,
were. I
and
remember.
I watching the Marlins celebrate was one of the saddest at Yankee Stadium. Was just one of the saddest moments of my life. So, gotta erase that one when I can.
Yeah, and that was that was probably the moment because I was a front runner back then. I was the Yankees front
You
runner.
love Jeter too. You love
Oh,
Jeter.
still do. Oh, I love Jeter always. Yeah, but I remember when they lost, and then that was probably the downturn of my Yankees fandom.
Wow, you were such a front runner. Because then I think like the Phillies started getting pretty good, like 2 or 3 years later, and then
Yeah,
you got all the Phillies gear. I'm like, what is this? Like,
it took a
all
couple
right,
years. Yeah, it took a couple years, and then we had the Phillies had their core come up and start to be good. So. But I'll take I'll admit that I was a front runner back then. I like the in 2002 when the Tampa Bay Bucks won the Super Bowl, I was a huge Bucks fan. Played them in Madden every year.
That's right. When
And
you're like a
then,
little kid, sports fandom, you just like don't you'd like
yeah,
whoever. Like I don't know. You're just like
yeah,
I like this team because of video games. Like I don't really know. So I'm gonna hold
yeah,
it against you too much.
yeah. Winning in video games, yeah. So, all right, solid 2-3 right there for you overall. So now we're going snake. My next pick, you know, I didn't. It was interesting. I didn't think you would take a picture this earlier. So now I'm thinking pitcher. I'm not going to get rattled off my game though. I'm going to take. I'm thinking right now. I know this isn't the fourth overall pick in what should be this draft, but I'm thinking position scarcity right now. And there was only a couple good shortstops this past decade.
Yep.
It was just kind of a weird time for shortstops. I think not a lot of good offensive shortstops, and the one guy I'm going to take is Troy Tulowitzki.
Mm.
He is he's a 5-time All-Star this past decade, mostly with the Rockies. Has been with the Blue Jays the last couple years, and then the Yankees. I don't know if he's on a team right now, to be honest, but
I
he's
think he retired.
did he retire? Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, his last that year with the Yankees wasn't that great. Bunch of injuries. But he was. I mean, I think it definitely helped that he played in Colorado, Coors Field, with that easy ballpark.
Yep.
But he was still, a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. Got. I'm looking at it. He was fifth in MVP voting for 2 years in a row. Just one of the better hitting shortstops, I think, this past decade.
Yeah. That was the top shortstop on my board as well, even though he, again, kind of like Miguel Cabrera, falls off a cliff after 2016. The first 6 years, 5 years, I mean, he was a monster.
Yeah.
And you're right. Doing some research for this, there were just not that many good shortstops in the mid
No.
2000s. It's just you have a couple of guys at the end of the decade that came on, but I do think he put together the best body of work. So, it's a solid choice.
There you go. Now you're up.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with a guy who I think this is, if I'm building a real team, he's the guy that I would take in this slot. So I'm actually going to take Jose Altuve as my leadoff hitter and second baseman. And
Interesting.
the reason why I'm choosing him over someone like Robinson Cano is, if for real life purposes, Robinson Cano made $180 million in the last 10 years. Jose Altuve made 50. So for that price tag and the production that he's going to give my team, he to me is the best value choice right here. And you look at this, he just was the best hitter, I think, in the last 5 years in the MLB. So just to get him for cheap in a position that, he can kind of lead off my squad and get everyone going, it was kind of a no-brainer right there.
You hear that?
I hear it.
That
And
was
you know
banging
what?
on the trash can.
I get it. I get it.
Fastball.
If you look at the data, and I'm a Yankee fan. I don't like the Astros.
You are.
The Astros cheated, no doubt about that. Jose Altuve he barely participated in the scheme. If
I
you actually
know.
look
I
at the
know.
data,
I'm just trolling. I know.
he doesn't even need it. Like, he really is that good. But honestly, a fair troll.
Yeah, the data and everything. He was better in away games overall, and I mean, honestly, at his size, I mean, even if you're cheating, the fact that you can be that good of a hitter and a power hitter too at his size, which is like what 5'6" or something. I mean, yeah, I don't think and like you said, he wasn't really cheating as much as some Bregman and Correa and all that. So
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
I like it. I'm gonna go. Yeah, so I mean, all right, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do a reliever to just kind of like anchor my bullpen because this dude was lights out. Aroldis Chapman.
Mm,
He obviously everyone knows for his flamethrower, his just like a shutdown lefty closer. Um, he made four All Stars with the Reds in the early part of this past decade, and then All Star for 2 years, the last 2 years with the Yankees. Had a stint there with the Cubs as well, but just anywhere he's been, he's just been a lights out closer. Um, and I think there's only been a couple times where he wasn't kind of a sure thing to close out games, but usually it's just no one can catch up to his speed when he comes in for that ninth inning.
yeah. Having watched him up close the last couple of years, I mean, he is not a great person when you look at some of the criminal charges against him,
Yeah,
but he's a
yeah.
fantastic baseball player, um, and really has, you know, listen, he throws 102 miles per hour on a pretty consistent basis,
On
um,
average.
on average. Um, and he's also an exceptionally good athlete too. So any bunts, any like fielding, pop flies, whatever, like he's actually extremely good at defensively as well. So he's kind of the guy you do want out there. Um, you know, his breaking stuff has actually been a little bit better the last 2 years. It really wasn't very good. Didn't really need it the first couple of his years at the Reds, even early Yankees. But
Dude, his slider's filthy now.
his slider is actually really good, and that's taken him to a whole new level. So I think that's the right pick for best reliever.
Nice.
I am so for my next pick here. Um, I'm going back to the pitching staff to make a little defensive selection here. Um, for me, the next pitcher on this list is um, it's actually going to be Justin Verlander over Clayton
Mm.
Kershaw. Um,
He was on my list.
yeah, and again, same sort of thing with Scherzer. The durability has always been there, as well as the elite stuff. So again, he made 6 All-Stars, 2 Cy Youngs, 56.6 WAR, a World Series championship, consistently, one of the most elite pitchers in the game. And again, is another guy who's only gotten better with age. The Astros have helped him throw more breaking stuff, mixed up his slider, curveball to go with his plus fastball. So to me, again, I'm going to have Scherzer and Verlander just anchoring down the rotation, um, helping me kind of rack up a lot of points. Excuse me.
I would have gone him. I would have gone with him. He was an MVP that one year, right? As a pitcher,
He was. He
which is
was.
crazy to think about.
And you looking at doing research for this. He kind of had a couple of years, like 3 or 4 years, where the Tigers were kind of in no man's land, and he didn't get a lot of wins. He was still pitching well, but like, I mean, imagine if he was on a better team, he'd probably be the best pitcher, unquestionably, of the decade. If he
Yeah,
had a little more help for a couple of years there. So, but again, the trade to Houston was massive for him, and I think he's on his way to Cooperstown.
yeah, I like that pick a lot. Was definitely on my list to pick. I'm gonna have to go pitcher here, just so I make sure I get one of these aces that I wanted at the beginning. And you mentioned him earlier. I'm going Clayton Kershaw. Has just been, I think, the only downside to him has been his unsuccess, I guess, in the playoffs. Just kind of, it's just kind of weird how he's been so bad in the playoffs sometimes. But he's been so good in the regular season. He's got 3 Cy Youngs. He also won an MVP back in 2014. And has been top 5 Cy Young almost every single season. And it's just been kind of an anchor for that Dodgers rotation for this whole decade. So I love him. I love watching him. He's got his delivery is also I think he took it from Kenley Jansen. I don't know. When he comes, he kind of almost touches the ground with his foot and then
Yep.
goes home. So unique, but it's just crazy how good his stuff has been for this long. And for same thing with Scherzer and Verlander, but for Kershaw now, he's been in the league since 2008, and he's been lights out for almost every single year.
Yeah. I think what separates all these three guys in my mind, Scherzer, Verlander, and Kershaw, head and shoulders above any other pitcher from this decade.
Yeah.
All 55 plus WAR added to their teams. Everyone's been in around the World Series almost every year. So you look at these guys as really the most dominant ones. Kershaw has the most WAR. Um, when he's healthy, and he was the best, I think, at his peak, and when he was healthy, he was the best out of this bunch. But the injuries, I think, do knock him down to this third spot, just for
Yeah.
that simple reason.
Yep. It's true. The injuries, especially for him, have been tough the last few years. Yeah.
Yep. But listen, I don't know about you. I hope that he actually does win a World Series. I think
Yeah.
he's a deserving guy. Those Dodger teams have just been so close every single year. I kind of want them to break through.
This year
But
could have been it with bringing in Mookie Betts.
yeah. Um, and speaking of Mookie Betts, actually,
Ah.
my next pick is my guy. I know he's been on the Red Sox and is a Yankees fan. Not supposed to like anyone on the Red Sox, but I've had Mookie in my fantasy team the last 4 years. He's an awesome person and player, both defensively and offensively. I know he has only played, 5 years in this decade, but he has the second most, like behind Mike Trout. He's actually up there in terms of WAR, offensive statistics, MVP. Like he's right there in terms of a lot of the other softer numbers that you're looking for. Um, he's going to hit second for me. Um, the dude just gets on base. He's got power, speed, everything. So, and I need an outfielder. He could play center. He could play right. I'm excited to have him on my team.
Yeah, you got what, Altuve, Betts to start out your batting order. I like that a lot.
Yeah, we're going to be getting on base a lot, and then Miggy's going to be knocking them in.
You gonna have Miggy, what, 3-hole, or are you still deciding there?
We'll see who's left on the board, but right now I've got Miggy right there.
Yeah. That's good. Well, so you lock down the starting pitching. I'm locking down my next best reliever behind Aroldis Chapman. And the guy I was thinking of, but I would have two lefties here, would be Andrew Miller. But I don't want to go two lefties in my pen, so I got to go righty here. I'm going Craig Kimbrell. Has been just a beast with every team. He's been the Braves, stint with the Padres, but the Red Sox and then the Cubs last year. Last year was a shaky one for him, but when he was on the Red Sox and the Braves especially, he was just so dominant. Was even in like Cy Young conversation, even as a reliever, which is crazy. And was Rookie of the Year that first year he came up with the Braves back in 2011. And as a Phillies fan, I saw him a lot because, those close games in the division, he'd come in that one-run ball game in the ninth inning, and it would just be over. I mean, there wasn't really much you could do about it. There was only a couple times, teams got to him. But check out this. His first full year was 2011, as I mentioned, and he had 4 straight years as an all-star for those first 4 full years. And his ERAs those years, 2.1 to his rookie year, 1.01, 1.21, and 1.61 for those first 4 years, and had at least 42 saves every single year. Led the league every single year. So, I mean, he was just a stud then.
Yep. Yeah, I think he's the next guy that you would want on this list. I think when I don't know if you found this when you were doing your research as well. It's so hard to be good for 10 straight years, but a lot of these guys were elite for like 7 or 6,
Yeah.
8. and he certainly at his peak, those 4 or 5 years was the best closer. So makes perfect sense. You got an eighth inning guy, ninth inning guy. It's going to be tough if you got a lead for anyone to score runs in you.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. For my next pick, I'm going again with one of my favorite players that wasn't a Yankee. It's Adrian Beltre, third baseman, had 49 WAR during this decade, was a very good defensive player, but really just an offensive masher. Was consistently hitting in these kind of feared Rangers lineups, um, and was, again, you know, delivering tons of extra base hits, tons of hits. I mean, he averaged, he had almost 200 hits for like 5 straight years. So you're looking at a guy who was consistently in the top 10 in the MVP voting, consistently an all-star, um, and was very good up into his age 39 season as well. I mean, as even a 38-year-old, he hit 312. So you're looking at a guy who was around 300 or better for 10 years straight in his 30s. So he's a guy that he's going to hit fifth and is going to anchor that lineup as well.
Really good pick. By the way, nothing has to do with his talent here, but the videos of him and Elvis Andrus just playing around on the clowning around because he doesn't like his head being touched. So those
Yeah.
videos on YouTube of just like Elvis Andrus touching his head and running away are some of the most funniest
Yeah.
things I've ever seen.
Exactly. Like as a baseball fan, he's the kind of guy that, again, you just flip on YouTube and you're just like, it's so much fun to watch him
Yeah.
clown around with his teammates. He just seems like a fun guy to like play baseball with and hang out for like 6 straight months. So, yeah, I'm excited to have him on my squad.
Yeah, he clowns around. I remember this one video he clowned around with Felix Hernandez and like yelling at him from the dugout and stuff while he's pitching.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, so you got third base. I like that pick a lot. I'm going outfield here, and a current Philly, and used to be a rival of the Phillies, and that's Bryce Harper.
Mm,
Um, he's. I think a lot of people back when he first came up as a 19-year-old with the Nats, people were saying like, oh, it's gonna be him and Trout for the next decade or 2 decades. I think Harper, he's taken a little step back, I think, later in his career with the Nats. And then last year, he still had 35 homers and 114 ribbies with the Phillies. But people would say he had a little bit down year. His batting average is still not great. He strikes out a ton. But, I think in terms of just being one of the most feared hitters, in the current league, I think he's definitely that. Like, I just watched him on the Phillies, and I watched him a lot with the Nets. Every time he came up, you knew, he got intentionally walked a bunch. People pitched around him. And then, as I was going to say last year, he would come up, in the seventh or eighth inning, and immediately, the other team goes to their bullpen to bring in a lefty just to face him. He's just one of those guys that you want to do everything you can to get him out because he can hit a home run at any time, crack a double, and just start a rally. So he was, he was MVP back in 2015 with the Nets, Rookie of the Year, obviously his first season. The one thing about him though that I love is just his on base percentage. I think a lot of that has to do with walks, but I think just in general he gets on base a lot because he's a smart hitter too. So
yeah.
I'm locking him in, and he'll fit nicely in the middle of my order.
Yeah, that was going to be my next pick, so you jumped ahead of me there. I think Bryce gets a bad rap because he's not like a likable person. I think even though he's not a bad guy, I just think people get annoyed with him, and I think you
Yeah.
also have a lot of people that he was just supposed to be like the next like Willie Mays or Hank Aaron, like a literal legend. And it's not that he hasn't been great, because he really is, to your point, he's been very, very good. He just hasn't been like the best player consistently every year, which I think for some reason gets him sort of a little bit of a bad rap, but he is still one of the best players in the MLB, one of the best outfielders of this decade. Um, to your point, walks a ton, on base a lot, lots of pop. Um, I think he's just got to make a nice postseason run and really carry a team. Because it just felt like last year, a lot of empty, feels like 35 empty home runs, 114 empty RBIs, if that's even possible. But I think that's just
Yeah.
how a lot of people felt about it.
Yeah. No, you're right though. Yeah, but real quick on his attitude and stuff. Yeah, I mean, people hate this guy. I used to hate him as a Phillies fan because he was just, I'll never forget him, and he had a battle with Cole Hamels one time. Just staring him down, and Hamels like wasn't taking his crap, and it's little things like that that made you really hate him. I think he's matured. I hope he has. It seemed like he has. I think he's probably been humbled a little bit because he hasn't had the playoff success and stuff like that. So, hoping for better things once MLB returns.
Yeah, I think he has matured too. Like, he gets a bad rap, but his talent's very, very much still there.
Yeah.
Okay, for my next pick, I have a ton of righties in my lineup, so I'm going to throw in a switch hitting guy who I love at shortstop, and that's Francisco Lindor. To your point, shortstop is a very weak position this decade, but in the last 4 or 5 years, Lindor's made an all-star team every single year. The Indians have been in the playoffs every single year. So just again, he's a guy that I know that can bat towards the end of my lineup, but sort of be that guy that turns over, um, gets everyone on base, steals bases, has some pop. Um, you know, Again, a nice clubhouse guy. I'm gonna have a really fun team.
Yeah.
A lot of guys who'd like to play the game and smile. So, um, again, I know he doesn't have the longevity as someone else, like an Andrus or even Tulowitzki had a little bit more this decade, but he's the guy I still think that was, a top 2 or 3 impactful shortstop the last 10 years.
Yeah. You got a lot of Latin flavor in your infield and on your team there.
I do. We're going to have a lot of fun. That's all I know.
So just to recap real quick, we're my team so far. I got Mike Trout, Troy Tulowitzki, Aroldis Chapman, Clayton Kershaw, Craig Kimbrell, and Bryce Harper. And Nick, you want to run through your team real quick?
Yeah. We've got Max Scherzer, Miguel Cabrera, Jose Altuve, Justin Verlander, Mookie Betts, Adrian Beltre, Francisco Lindor.
Nice. All right, my next pick. You know, I know you have taken a second baseman already, but I just need a leadoff hitter that I know is going to be a great leadoff hitter. Even though he didn't really hit leadoff in his career because he is kind of more of a power hitter, I guess, and that would be Robinson Cano. I mean, the dude just hits. He gets on base. When on the Yankees, obviously, but when he was on the Mariners, he was just a hitting machine. Um, and it was a guy that, you know, even though the Mariners weren't that great, he was still just, getting all-star appearances, getting MVP consideration because he was just such a good hitter. I'm just pulling up his stats right now. Never had an MVP season, but had a bunch of, top 5 finishes, was a perennial all-star every single year, Gold Glover, Silver Slugger, all that. And just like, he's a career 302 hitter, but I'm looking at those Mariners years, he had, and those Yankees years too. He was just hitting above 300 like consistently. So yeah, I'm gonna put him at leadoff. Been in the league. I didn't realize this. Been in the league since 2005. Wow. With
Yeah.
those Yanks.
Yeah. I mean, I think by the numbers, would probably be the second baseman of this decade in terms of WAR hits, extra base hits. I mean, he leads everyone in a lot of those categories. One of the most naturally gifted hitters of all time. I think the only reason why I didn't take Cano over Altuve, to your point, I think the Yankees obviously there's a little bit of bias here. I think they made the right decision to not pay him when he wanted the mega contract from them. Um, Again, the last 2 or 3 years haven't been that great, and obviously he has steroids in there as well, which I don't
Yeah.
know why he took them. Didn't really need them. His game doesn't really require them, but you know, you never know what goes on with him. Um, but I think just in terms of pure hitting talent, I mean, he's up there with the best of this decade.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right though. I mean, the Yankees definitely got, I think, his prime, the prime of his career.
Yeah,
He was a four-time All-Star with the Yankees. Has been a three-time All-Star with the Mariners, and then last year he was on the Mets. But I mean, the steroid thing was a little weird for him. There's always some of those players that obviously they don't. None of these guys need steroids, but like especially a guy like that. I mean, kind of, instantly I'm just thinking of like A-Rod and Barry Bonds, It's just like some of these players, just you don't need steroids, and it just taints your whole career. I think for Cano, it doesn't taint his whole career. But I think later, when he's in his 30s, it's something that like you don't want to see, but you know. All right, well, you are up. This is what round? We're in the middle of round 7 here.
yeah. I am going to fill out my outfield a little bit here with the guy who hit the most home runs this decade, and that's Nelson Cruz. Um, this guy, not known for his defense, but like Adrian Beltre, one of the best hitters of the last 10 years. Again, 346 homers, almost 1,000 RBIs, and 961. Um, Again, just an extra base and hitting machine, really. You'd like to see the on base percentage be a little bit higher than it is. But here's a guy who's hit 280, has been on a bunch of winning teams, and really hit and played well no matter where he's been. And again, also a 5-time All-Star this decade.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to see how his old age and he's still just mashing home runs. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, and for you look at his impact on organizations too. I mean, the year he was in Baltimore from one year, I think they won the division that year, went to the playoffs, haven't even sniffed anything yet. The years he was on Texas, they were consistently contending for a championship. And even last year, you look at Minnesota. I mean, he really added a lot of life to that offense, helped them get to the playoffs and lose to the Yankees. But um, here's a guy who's really helped, every team he's been a part of win and win consistently.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good point. I don't know if you mentioned this, but he in this decade he is the overall leader in home runs, 346.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
so
that's one of the reasons why I wanted him. Again, I think he's hit over 40 4 times this decade, with just remarkable consistency. And then I think the other 2 years he had 39 and 37. So he's really come on as a 33-year-old. He's really been um, much better at hitting bombs the older he's gotten, which, you know, I'll take it.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm going to stay right there in the power category, power hitter. And I don't know if this is guy going to play the outfield for me or be my DH, utility spot. We'll see how this draft ends up. But I'm going Giancarlo Stanton, current Yankee for you. I feel like Yankee fans might have a sour taste in their mouth right now because they're paying him so much and he gets hurt every year. I'll get your take on that in a sec. But, I mean, this guy – he's third in this decade in total home runs behind Cruz and Edwin and Encarnacion. Just, every single year he's just, a complete, home run power hitter. His MVP year in 2017, 59 homers, led the league. And it was really cool, I think, in my opinion, to see him get an MVP while he was on the Marlins because – the Marlins have just been bad every single year while he's been there. And, it's just been – it was like him, Yelich, Marcell Ozuna, just some of these, JT Realmuto, some of these guys were just kind of like waiting to get them off the team, but and he got his with the Yankees. But just cool to see him get an MVP at least, because he's been so good. And that year was one of the few that he's been fully healthy for a whole season. So, good to see that. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about this dude? Getting hurt every year.
Yeah. Well, 2 years ago, he was actually the only guy that stayed healthy for our team. And he didn't put up the eye-popping stats like he did in Miami, but
Yeah.
he was fine. And I actually think last year was just kind of a throwaway for him, just didn't play at all. But I think coronavirus will actually be helpful for him to just get his body fully healthy, get through everything. And if we do play a shortened season, he's going to be a valuable contributor. Yeah, I mean, he's like the power guy of this generation, right? I mean, he is, when
Yeah.
you think of the mashers, um, he's got to be on that list. To your point, injuries are the only thing that's held him back from being, probably an all-time great. He probably is still headed for being a perennial all-star and, worth the contract that he has. But he's just got to find a way to stay healthy. And I think that's what separates him being much higher on this list versus, being here.
Yeah, it's a good point, by the way, pointing out that he's going to benefit from this delayed season. Aaron Judge, another guy, probably going to benefit from that. I mean, all the guys that are hurt right now that are going to be coming back. I know, like, one that I was thinking of earlier was Shohei Ohtani because,
Yep.
He was not supposed to pitch until, like, midway through the year. He might be, a legit two-way player by the time the season starts. So,
yeah. Yeah, you hope that – I hope Ohtani's healthy and ready to play again. I'd like to see Trout do well. He needs Ohtani to be kind of both pitching and hitting at a high level. So I'd like for everyone to be healthy and just get a full view of what this Angels team can do because they could be fun.
Yeah.
For my next pick here, I'm actually going to finally pick a reliever. I'm going to pick Kenley Jansen. The only other person this decade to have more than 300 saves behind Kimbrel, and that's 301. Has recorded 900 plus strikeouts, 2.35 ERA. Really, I think could have been number one in terms of like best relievers this decade if it wasn't for he sort of again has dropped off these last couple of years, but again he's playing at a high level for this whole decade. It remains to be seen if he can continue to carry on this momentum that he's had in earlier part of the decade, but he's still a valuable piece currently, and then I'll take him for like what he's done these past 10 years.
Yeah, I really like Jansen. If I didn't get Kimbrel, then he would have been my top righty reliever that I was going to take. Because, yeah, I mean, just watching him too. I mean, I know he's had a couple weird seasons, but when he's like on his game, he's he reminds me, of Mariano Rivera because he throws that split seam fastball that's just kind of like. I mean, it's unhittable when it's on, and it just tails away from righties, comes in on lefties, just like Rivera did. And Jansen's kind of like that next guy, showing that it can work when thrown right. So
yeah, his movement on his pitches is out of this world. And then you have to kind of look at the Dodgers have been great. I mean, he's really helped the Dodgers be, so consistent this whole decade, especially the past 5-6 years. He's been a large part of that. And he's a proven winner, been in big game situations. So, yeah, I'm excited to have him on the squad.
By the way, quick little nugget on Kenley Jansen. I don't know if you knew this, but I think the first year that the World Baseball Classic happened, I want to say it's 2006. It was either that one or then the next one in 2010. But Jansen was a catcher. He was a starting catcher for the Netherlands. And he was – you remember that?
I do.
Yeah.
There's a famous clip of him on YouTube of like gunning people out on his knee.
He's gunning people out.
It's like, well, he throws 95. He should probably be pitching. Like, he shouldn't be a catcher. But I mean, he's a big,
the dude is
guy.
He's a massive guy. Yeah.
So makes sense. But
Jansen. All right. Well, from there, um, I'm gonna go pitcher here. Kind of get another starter to my rotation, and a guy that's just been he's had a couple of different phases of his career, and that's Zach Greinke. He, I think you mentioned him earlier. So his only Cy Young. I know this isn't part of the decade, but his only Cy Young came in 2009 when he was with the Royals. But when he went to the Dodgers, he just kind of remade his game. He kind of fell off a cliff for those couple years. He was on the Brewers, he was on the Angels, and now when he went to the Dodgers, he just kind of refound his career. Had a season where he finished second in the Cy Young with a 1.66 ERA, 19-win season, and then it was Arizona, and then last year when he went to the Astros, had another great season. I think that Greinke, he's just a guy. You wouldn't think he's going to be one of the top pitchers of the decade, but because he's I guess because of his small stature, was never a huge strikeout pitcher, I don't think, and but has been consistently good, I think, and I'm drafting him for his what he was with the Dodgers when he
Yeah.
was just one of the best. It was him and Kershaw at the top of that rotation was just lights out, and I got both of them now.
You got the mid-decade Dodgers. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think everything you said about Greinke is absolutely true. At his best earlier this decade, he was top 3 pitcher. Yeah, the last couple of years, I just think he's been okay. But again, the whole body of work definitely worthy of being one of the top guys this decade.
yeah. All right, well, I'm a 9 picks down here, so let's. You're up, man.
Yeah. This one,
It starts to get tough now, doesn't it?
yeah. So just to quickly clarify, we're doing a utility, 3 starters, 2
Yeah.
relievers.
Yep.
Okay. Um, and then we're doing a DH as well, right?
Well, the DH/utility.
DH/utility. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, when you talk about utility guy, here's a guy I just want playing on my team, both defensively and offensively. It's got to be Nolan Arenado. Um, I could probably play him at first base or second or short, whatever. He'd excel, or even the outfield. But I just think he's one of the best players this decade. Came into the league in 2013 and, really started to find his footing in 2015. And again, has been just perennially great. Um, been a Gold Glover every single year that he's been in the league. So he's a guy that's going to help my defense. He's going to play around the diamond for me. And, he's also just, again, a perennial amazing hitter. I know Coors kind of inflates his numbers a little bit, but you can't kind of take away that even with Coors Field, he's still, 7. I think he's averaging like 7 plus WAR a season, just because of his defense is so
Yeah.
good as well.
Yeah, and yeah, I think he used to be a shortstop in high school, so
Yeah.
you can play him literally anywhere in the infield there.
Yeah, and I don't
He
have
was
the
my
best defensive team.
he, he was my next option at third after you took Beltre, so now I'm scrambling at third. Probably just end up waiting there because I got a couple guys in mind, but like I don't want them yet. I am gonna get another. Actually, I'll wait on that. I'm gonna take another starting pitcher though, just to kind of lock down my pitching rotation here. Don't have to worry about that anymore. And that's Madison Bumgarner. I think Madison. The thing that instantly comes to mind when you think of Madison Bumgarner is what he did in the World Series. I think 2014. He came in relief in that Game 7. I think he came in relief a couple other games in the playoffs that year. And the Giants just rode him until he couldn't go anymore and until they won the World Series. I mean, they just rode his left arm, and he was just shutting people down. He was just so good. And he's had, he's had a couple down years, I think. And, the Giants have been good either, but when he was like at his peak, and yeah, from 2013 to 2016, he was a 4-time All-Star, and was in the Cy Young conversation all those years. Was just kind of an anchor to a Giants team that won a World Series in 3 years in what 5 years, so 3 times in 5 years. So he was a stud, and his postseason in 2014 was just something that is hard to match up against, I think, for all time like pitching postseason performances.
Yeah, definitely in terms of postseason grit and guts, he's a guy you want there. I feel like he just takes the ball consistently, gives you 7+ innings, 10+ strikeouts. Yeah, he's a great guy to have on his team. I think he's obviously kind of a weird person who drives around ATVs and crashes them and like ruins his season. But yeah, I definitely think he's deserving.
All right, what's your next pick here?
Yeah, I'm gonna round out my starting pitching rotation, and that's with Felix Hernandez. He he's kind of the when we first started to look at maybe um, instead of wins or losses, we sort of I feel like was kind of the test case in terms of are you a truly great pitcher even though your win loss record might not be what it is, um, which is again he won the Cy Young at 13 and 12, but was at 2.27 ERA through almost 250 innings. 232 strikeouts. He's a guy who, from 2010 to 2016, was really one of the best pitchers in the game. So 6 really elite years right there. Again, he's a guy who's won over 110 games this decade. The Mariners were just not very good at all to give him really any help. But you kind of wonder if he was on a better team, how much better his overall record and statistics would look. But in terms of pure stuff, he's definitely a guy that I wanted on my squad.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. All right, I'm going catcher here. I'm going to go Buster Posey.
Ah, there's only 2 choices.
Yeah, it's him or Yachty, right?
Yep, exactly.
And I'm going Buster because I think just overall his offense is better. War leaders at catcher for this last decade. It's Posey at number 1 with 53 WAR, and then Yachty at 41.7. So there's a big difference there. Most of it's because of his offense, because I think Yachty's probably the better defender. But after that, it kind of drops off. But Posey, I mean, Rookie of the Year and MVP for a season, just been one of the best catchers in the game for this past decade. So easy choice there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is, I think, the right choice in terms of the best catcher of this decade. It is Buster Posey. Offensively, he is head and shoulders above everyone else. Throw in 3 World Series titles as well. I think he was the clear number 1 catcher of this decade. For me to kind of just round out the catching, I am going to take Yachty. He was the second best catcher of this decade, I think, pretty clear cut. Best defensive catcher, very good offensively, but just not on the level of Posey. But I'd be happy to have him on the squad.
Yeah, I like that. All right, I'm gonna go another outfielder here, and gonna move Stanton to my DH, and I'm going Andrew McCutchen. Was an MVP with the Pirates. One of the better players in the league when he was with the Pirates. Had a couple, kind of down years, I think, last few years. But he was good on the Phillies last year when he was healthy before he tore his ACL. And I think he's still got a ton of talent, and just when he was at his prime, though, just one of the better defensive outfielders, and also one of the better, hitting center fielders, I think. So Yeah, going McCutch here.
Yep. At his best in Pittsburgh, I think he was the best player. And he's still, you saw with the Phillies last year, I mean, he's still a valuable player in the MLB.
Yeah,
Still gets on base, still like a very solid offensive player. Was like that for the Yankees as well, his stint there. Um, I just think he's just not at that peak level anymore, but was definitely one of the best outfielders this decade. I think there's no debate about that.
yeah. I mean, yeah, he was definitely one of the better outfielders overall. I remember, and especially that MVP year. So
Yeah. For me, I am going to round out my relief pitching. Um, it's kind of a toss up between Andrew Miller and Zach Britton, both guys who've been on the Yanks, both guys who um, I think deserve to be mentioned as one of the best relievers this decade. I'm just going to go with Andrew Miller just based on a little more longevity. Um, but a guy who really the last 5-6 years has been one of the top left-handed relief pitchers um, in baseball. I mean, he has closer level stuff, but just never. It's just a better setup man or a better guy to just bring in any situation and get out a left-handed hitter. Um,
yeah,
really interesting that he started his career as a starter, but just has nasty, nasty stuff when he's healthy. I think that would be his only knock on him is, again, he gets hurt a lot, but when healthy, he's kind of a guy I can get out. I know he's going to get out any left-handed batter for me.
yeah. I like that. Yeah, definitely a guy I was considered in earlier. All right, I'm going to go. This is my 13th pick here, so we got 3 picks left in this draft. I need third base, so I'm going there. Actually, I'm going to go first base just to make sure I get one that I want, um, and that's Joey Votto. Just been in the league for so long, and just one of the best, on base guys, but also just hitting, for average in general. Joey Votto was, MVP one year, been a Gold Glover, and I think that he's a guy that just kind of like for pure hitting wise, he's kind of the left-handed hitting Miguel Cabrera in my opinion because he gets on base, he can hit very well, and he's got some power too. So going Votto here.
Yeah. Joey Votto, analytics darling. I
Yeah,
think when you look at the numbers, he probably has had the best holistic decade of any first baseman in terms of getting on base, delivering offensive value. I mean, I think this was his decade. I don't think his peak was as high as Miguel Cabrera, but I think he's done it for a longer and more consistent time. Um, again, I think we saw him may have fell off a cliff last year, but he still was a valuable player. And still someone that's going to make a pretty good impact.
yeah,
Um, so I need another outfielder. So I am going to go with a guy who he sort of is not a good defensive outfielder, but um, I think his bat is one of the best, and that's JD Martinez. Um, again, another right-hander for my team, but here's a guy who literally just can consistently hit and has hit consistently since 2014 on the Tigers and the Red Sox. So he's a guy, again, my outfield is going to be, maybe giving up some extra base hits, but I think hopefully we'll make up for it in the defensive department, or in the offensive department.
yeah, and I like that pick, man. All right, so I do need third base here, so I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Josh Donaldson. I mean, he's been, he's an MVP with the Blue Jays back in 2015. Before that, he was really good with the A's. Has kind of been, up and down, I think, the last few years, when he left the Blue Jays. The Braves last year, he kind of had a resurgence, but just been one of the better, when in his prime, he was just one of the best third basemen. 3-time All-Star. He had a short prime, I will say that, but when he was on, he was really good. And he's got an MVP award to show for it, so I'll take that.
Yeah, I think besides injuries, I mean, he was, if he wasn't injured so frequently, I think he would have been the best third baseman this decade. But the injury factor, I think, bit him a little bit. But the dude can hit just flat
Yeah,
out. Like, he's one of the best pure hitters there is.
yeah.
All right. So I think I've got my outfield.
This might be. I think I may have miscounted. This is probably the last pick of the draft.
I think this is the last pick.
Yeah, that was my last
Um,
pick. So
yeah. So I think I'm trying to see here. I feel like I'm covered. So I've got my three starters in Scherzer, um, Felix, and Justin. I got my first, second, third, short, outfield, outfield. I think I might actually be set
oh, is it?
as well.
I might have miscounted. And it's 14 rounds, not 15.
Yeah, I think I'm actually
All right, there we
set on
go.
my team.
All right, so let's go through. Let's go through how you would set up your batting order and your rotation and all that. So I'll let you go first with yours.
Yeah. So starters, I'm having Mad Max go out first on the hill. Behind him is Verlander, and then Felix will be third. Um, Again, I know there's no really wrong choice between Verlander or Scherzer, but I just like Scherzer's consistency. I like him just as a player a little bit better. Um, so that's where he's going to land for me. In terms of my order, um, I have a very, very right hand skewed lineup. So I'm just going with talent. I think these guys will figure it out. They're matchup proof. That's what I'm going with. Um, but the way I'm going to set it up is going to have Jose Altuve lead it off, Mookie bat second. Um, then I'll have Miguel Cabrera bat third, Nelson Cruz bat fourth, Adrian Beltre bat fifth, Nolan Arenado bat sixth, Francisco Lindor bat seventh, um, JD Martinez bat eighth, and Yachty bat ninth. And then first out of the pen in the setup situation is going to be Andrew Miller, and then to close it out, it'll be Kenley.
Wow, love it. Interesting.
So
You got JD Martinez batting eighth.
yeah, I mean, there's really nowhere to put him
No, I
higher. I
know.
would
I mean,
rather have
it's
all those other guys up there first. Um, Listen, I think you think, oh, okay, good right-handed pitcher is going to be a problem for these guys. Um, I think they're matchup proof. I think all these guys can hit anyone, and I'm telling Francisco Lindor he has to bat right to make everyone a righty. So he's not allowed to hit the left-hand side. Managers rule.
even against like Zach Greinke, when I throw him, he's hitting righty.
Nope, he's hitting righty. It's just a decree.
Interesting. It's interesting that he drafted that and didn't really realize the right-handed heavy there.
Hey, I'm
All right,
going talent.
you're set with the talent. So, all right, I'm gonna go. So my 1, 2, 3 in the rotation. We got Kershaw is my ace, Greinke the number 2 guy, and then Bumgarner is my third, and then I don't care either order. Either of them can close. Either of them can be the setup. But Aroldis Chapman and Craig Kimbrell. I think it would probably depend on lefty righty, and you got a bunch of righties, so we'll see there. Um, my lineup now. I did try to, and I thought about this while drafting. I did try to get some lefties to kind of break it up, and there were some good, hitting lefty hitters, so I got those. Robinson Cano is my leadoff. Mike Trout second, Bryce Harper third, Giancarlo Stanton is fourth, Joey Votto fifth, Troy Tulowitzki at sixth, Josh Donaldson at third is hitting seventh, Buster Posey eighth, and then Andrew McCutchen in the 9 hole is kind of my second leadoff there, going new age there. So yeah, I got them. I'm choosing. I got Stanton at the DH so that I can have McCutchen playing the field. He's going to be in left, Trout in center, Harper in right. Infield looks like Votto at first, Cano at second, Donaldson at third, Troy Tulowitzki at short, and then Buster Posey catching. So
Yeah,
I'm liking this.
a much more conventional lineup setting decision there. I
Hey,
definitely much more balanced.
in the All-Star
So
games, it doesn't matter. I mean, they're all good hitters, so
yeah, hey, but I think it's going to be a tough one to get outs on for sure.
yeah. So we're gonna be putting these up. If you're watching, on YouTube is where we're trying to have this on. We're gonna have these in the comments section, but Twitter and stuff. Let us know who's got the better team and who you would pick to win a kind of a head-to-head matchup. Be really interesting what people think here. And if we left anybody off, let us know because, I mean, there's definitely people we left off because we didn't have the space to draft them or me and Nick got biases about different players, so we probably shied away from some guys. But you know,
Dan, who would you think was the one player you wish you had in your team but couldn't fit on there?
yeah. Let me look at my draft board here. There was I think at first base I had a bunch of ways I was looking to go. And I chose Votto for kind of just overall, and the lefty was part of it. But Freddie Freeman and Paul Goldschmidt were two that I was definitely looking at. I think Goldschmidt for sure because he's been so good. And people, I think he's really underrated, nationally. People don't really know who that dude is, but just one of the better power hitting and overall just hitters in the game last decade. So, but
Yep.
what about you? Any others?
Yeah, Paul Goldschmidt was on that list as well. I
Yeah.
think some of the biggest people I wish I could fit on there. I think Manny Machado, uh, maybe not on the level of this entire roster, but a very deserving player to really stake his claim for a defensive and offensive stalwart. I mean, this dude is one of the best third basemen in the game today. Also, David Ortiz. You look about what he did for the last 6 years of his career. I mean, this guy could still hit. I mean, I think if you're looking for a
Yeah.
pure DH, I still think he probably would make this list. And I think even Edwin Encarnacion probably could make it as a DH as well.
Yeah. And some pitchers I was looking at, Chris Sale, John Lester, Cole Hamels, David Price, I think were all guys I was considering, but I think they were maybe just a step lower than the guys I picked and
Yeah.
the guys you picked for sure too. So
Yeah. Honorable mention for me that he would never have made this list, but I just love him. Wilson Ramos, catcher. Just he's on my fantasy team every single year. He can hit. This dude hits in Washington. He hits in
yeah.
Tampa. He hits in New York. He just comes in and hits every single year. He had a couple of injuries that sort of slowed him down, but when he's healthy, I mean, the guy just is actually, I think, one of the best pure hitting catchers over this last decade.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, there's at catcher. I mean, we talked about there's only two legit ones at the top tier, but a lot of these guys, it's hard to find a true catcher that you can have for like 5 years even
Yeah.
to be reliable. So,
Yep.
all right, well, we are gonna wrap this part up. I mean, we're gonna be doing more drafts. The Servo drafts. This is only episode 1. Let us know what other things we should draft. I think we're going to be doing other sports, other non-sports stuff. But we'll be back next time, and we'll see you then because we got a lot of time before live sports return.
True. And I think before we head off, just want to do one quick fun thing for you
Oh yeah,
guys.
yeah,
We were discussing like what can we end the podcast with that would actually be just sort of different and
yeah,
fun. So as everyone is right now, everyone's quarantined. I don't know what you, Dan. I'm playing some video games with my younger brothers. Want to do a quick top 5 on sort of the best quarantine video games. So guys, just let us know what you think the top 5 quarantine video games are. We'll give you our list, but we'd love to hear from you what you think as well.
yeah.
Dan, do you want to start us off with? Why don't you do top 3? I'll do my top 3, then we'll round it out.
All right, my top 3. And honestly no order here because I just kind of put together my 5 top ones. But my first 3 that I would definitely pick, Call of Duty Black Ops, the original Black Ops is the one I still play on my PS3 today because it's just the one that's the GOAT to me. Call of Duty Black Ops, and we got FIFA any year. I mean, I know they change different stuff year to year, but any year really is fine to me. I like some of the updated rosters though, so whatever the new one is, I guess. But any year I've played. So, and then my third one would be so this is one that you and me definitely played as kids. I haven't played in ages. I have it, but I don't have a way to play it, and that would be backyard baseball.
Oh yes.
I don't. So I have like the disc. I have the game. I don't have like a way to play on my computer. I might have to like buy a different attachment or something. I've seen people have like there's a way to download it online and stuff, but I haven't
Just go
gone
to
that
Reddit,
level.
Dan. You can find anything on Reddit.
I'm not trying to get viruses, man.
It's very true. That's a great list.
Pun intended.
Pun definitely intended. No, I think that's a great list. Backyard baseball, especially, I think one of the best
Yeah.
games ever created. My top 3, again, I'm impartial, maybe because I never had a GameCube or Nintendo growing up, and I just got one like a year ago, so I'm kind of leaning towards some of the Nintendo games. So I still think top 3, Super Smash Bros. You can never have too much fun with that. I'm going to do Mario Party 5. You just you can play that game. You can kill a couple of hours during your quarantine boredom. You can get like 4 players in there, have a lot of fun with the mini games, and it can go on a long time. So those 2 Nintendo ones are up there. And then I did have a Call of Duty World at War. Again, just
That's the new one, right?
yeah. No, I was thinking of the one that came out. Maybe I have the title wrong, but
Oh wait, what's the new? Is it? Oh, it's Warzone or something,
yeah,
right?
not Wars. I mean, I'm
Okay.
thinking this one came out probably in 2010, so it's pretty
Yeah,
old.
might be older than Black Ops.
I think it might be. um, so I think those 3 right there. I mean, you can have fun with any Call of Duty or Mario Party, but those are the ones that I'll be playing.
Love it. Okay, so then my last 2, I'm going. Um, this is one I've been playing a lot actually last week or so, and that's Saints Row. It's
Oh,
kind of like it's like a different version, I guess, of Grand Theft Auto.
yep.
But I think it's PlayStation's kind of take on Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, Saints Row has just been a ton of fun. Creating characters. And 2 characters real quick that I created in the last week. I created and this took definitely took time to go through all the facial and body qualities, but I created the Incredible Hulk because you can make people like a straight up color, just like any color. So I picked, you can make him green. So I made the Incredible Hulk, and I made Omar from The Wire, which
Oh, I
was
love that.
pretty fun to make him, and then walk around, shooting people with a shotgun and stuff. So
See, that's the kind of creativity that the quarantine demands
hey
right
man, we
there.
got hours of
Got
time.
hours. I'm
Why
going
not
to
just
make
make characters?
TV characters into my Saints Row video game.
If you guys got any suggestions of who I should make,
Yeah, who should Dan make next? Um, yeah, I think if I had to make a character from some HBO show, um, gosh, it would be great to make like like Johnny Drama from
Oh, that would be
Entourage and
hilarious.
just have him be a psychopath running around.
Wearing like a
Uh,
like a blazer or whatever. Just
no, he'd have a black wife beater,
yeah, white beater.
flip flops, and would ride like an ATV, just shooting people.
I
Um,
should make like Tony Soprano.
that's another good one. Yeah. See, please comment below with stuff that Dan should make.
My fifth one, by the way, my fifth game here. Any of the Maddens. I mean, I don't have PS2 anymore, but my favorite Madden ever was Madden 2003 because it was just like the first one I had, and I played literal like just franchise tons of seasons at back to back. It'd be the kind of thing you come after school and you just play Madden. So, I created myself a bunch and put them in there. You put your, school colors and create a team. But the current Maddens I have, so
did you make Motown football?
Morristown Quakers, man, black and gold. Number 80, dude.
80 is alive and well. I think we get a good glimpse of what Dan is doing during his quarantine. He's just creating his own worlds within Madden and Saints Row.
What else is there to do, man?
Yeah, this is the time to do it.
We just recreated our own baseball teams.
Yeah, and I had a lot of fun doing it. My last two, and those are really good. Those 5 are really good. My last 2 were Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Oh my gosh, such a classic game, dude.
Classic game.
Choice. Great choice.
Yeah,
I forgot about that game. Wow.
That's hours of fun.
Wow,
trying to do some like 900s and 1020s. So, that one, it's got to be brought back. And then my last one, Halo 3. Just get a squad. You can still play online. Brings me back to my high school days where I cared so much about my armor and my helmet and all that stuff. So I think I'll just get back into pretending I'm 18.
Dude, that's how I felt with COD. So, I mean, whatever. Dude, I forgot about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, though. I mean,
yeah. And
I lived through that very much vicariously because I was not a good skater at all. And I would just go on there and, our cousins and our siblings and stuff, we were never a big skating fan, but maybe Ben, I guess. But
yeah, my brothers definitely tried. Ben was the best one of all of them.
Was he good though, or was he just?
He was actually pretty good.
Okay.
I mean, I think he broke his arm a few times skateboarding, and that sort of ended it.
I'm sorry, Ben. I didn't mean
put the kibosh on that. Yeah.
Michael was definitely a wannabe skater, though.
Yeah, I dressed like a skater, but never was a skater. But definitely stole the clothing. So
yeah.
Yeah. But listen, this is what we got to do during quarantine. Just go back in time 10 years, recreate characters and games and memories.
Yeah, and we'll be doing more of it coming up. So, I mean, you guys all stay tuned for what we got next, and let us know what else we should be drafting. And we're going to try to bring in some, special guests of, do multiplayer drafts with some of the people we know. So stay tuned for all that. And this was just the first of many, as long as we're all sitting at home. So, Nick, thank you very much, man. And we'll be back next time. And until then, you guys all stay safe and all that. So we'll see you guys next time.
Wash your hands. Stay safe, guys.